All right. Looks like some people are typing. I'll give you a minute. Okay. So you're talking about foreclosures, correct? Well, wait a minute. Just to get some, looks like some people are typing. I'm just going to give it a few seconds here just to confirm what we're talking about. Looks like some of you are going in your text box to say something and then you're not typing anything. Uh, we are not sure it was advertised by a realtor. So yeah, that's what it sounds like. It's the courts are forcing a sale of a property. This is a foreclosure. Typically, it should be a foreclosure. You can ask the realtor, call the realtor, and ask them about the property. Um, so, tip when foreclosures are taken on uh, by a lender, typically, not always, but you're talking about properties that are um, have or going to be sold near retail. They're required to do that to sell near retail, and the costs and the discounts that are possible on that are very restricted. So when you're dealing with foreclosures, anything that's owned by the lender or the bank, it's extremely tough to get a good deal on it. Usually they have, they want no creative financing. They want the property taken as is. They're trying to get it off their books, definitely, but it's a challenge for them to. Uh, they can't just sell it to the market for what's owed. They're required to, sell it at market value. So in the case of that particular property, the best thing you can do is you could always talk to your own realtor to see um, what the market value or comparables are for that particular property and see if there's an opportunity there. I'm not saying you can't get an opportunity with foreclosures. It's tougher to do, just because once the possession is taken and the cost of the liquidation of that property, typically the uh, lender eats up most of the equity or a lot of the equity. I should say a lot of the equity. I have a couple here in Edmonton that are interested in rent to own, but have no idea where to really start with them and recommendations on first steps. Okay, so have you taken lease options, or I'm assuming you haven't taken the class, but have you taken the on demand for lease options to watch that? Not yet. Was going to do that after momentum. Yeah, okay. You can actually, folks, you can take an on demand of a course you're going to take. You can take the on demand or request the on demand before you take the live class and start watching it. And I think that's if you know what you're going to take, you're committed to certain classes. You don't have to know all the classes you're going to take, but if you know the classes you're going to take, I would you know talk to one of the advisors and tell them that you want to go to that class, but at this point you want the on-demand opened up, and then the scheduling of the class can be done later. That would allow you to review or go through the on-demand to get a better idea on that particular strategy or topic. I think that's the best next step for you. Um, yeah, rent owns can get complicated, but really it's not complicated. It's just that you don't know or you're not familiar with it. Um, you know, as a first step with someone who's interested in a rent to own, you definitely want to take them to a uh, mortgage broker. Your mortgage broker would be good, and have them vetted to ensure that you know what their actual situation is. How long will it take them to get qualified? What's their income? Um, do they have the 3% to put down on a property? And once they've been qualified for the mortgage, and I'm talking about a future mortgage, of course. Let me give me 1 second here. So, So we want to know, what do we want to know for the rent to own? So rent to own, from them, we're going to take them to a, mortgage broker, and the mortgage broker is going to share with us, their, what they can qualify. So, for, what financing they can qualify for in, that's a terrible qualify for. Let's see here. They qualify, just let's go Q, in, 3 years, say. And that could be, because you want to qualify them for a mortgage um, as quickly as possible. They want to qualify for a mortgage as quickly as possible. So the mortgage broker is going to say, look, if they do A, B, C, D, in a year I'll be able to qualify them. Remember, the people that we're helping are individuals that have challenge in their credit or new credit. So the mortgage broker is going to give us a better idea of how long it'll take them to qualify and what they'll qualify for. So based on that, of course, based on that time frame, now we can send them to a realtor, and the realtor is going to find them the house. A real estate agent. So real estate agent finds them a house that's going to qualify at the value. So they find the house at the value that they can qualify in 3 years. So if the property was, let's do $100,000. Let's do this. So we have, so the property they can qualify for in 3 years is, let's say, I'm going to go let me see, 1.5. Let's say 130, 130K. Okay. So what house would we be looking for? Well, if we knew that they could qualify in 3 years for 130, I can't sell them or find a house that's at 130 because they won't be able to qualify based on the structure that we're going to do with the rent to own, because the rent to own is going to increase each year. So, maybe we can qualify. We send them to houses that are, let's see, would be 12, no, maybe 105, and because we assume that we're going to increase by, say, 5% per year. We could have maybe went higher. Let's see, 10 would have been 11. No, it would have. It's something close to this. Maybe I didn't pick the best math to do this for. So in year 1, so if they bought a house, this is the house that they want, in year 1, that house can be sold to them, or they, for value, because we're going up 5%, somewhere around 110. And then year 2, that's going to be 121. And year 3, that's going to be it's more than that, but about 130. Do you see what I mean? So you don't want to qualify them for what they can qualify now. You want to qualify them for a property that's going to be valued in the future at that value that they can be qualified. Does that make sense? Yeah, and because if you qualify them, Miriam, if you qualify them for a house, say the mortgage broker says they can qualify for 130. If I find them a house at 130 today, that house at 130, because I'm going to increase it every year. If I do that, they won't be able to qualify for the mortgage. You see that, Miriam? Yeah, exactly. It'll be too much. And the other thing, don't forget the 3%, right? The 3% to 5% that we need. So, with that, you really want to use your power team to do the vetting process for you. They get benefits out of it, obviously. If they find a house that fits the criteria, they qualify, and it fits the criteria, you can take advantage of the mortgage broker qualifying them for you. They'll be paid when you purchase the property, and they'll be paid a second time possibly if the tenant buyer goes through them to get the second their own mortgage, which would most likely happen because he was the one or she was the one that qualified them or gave them the plan. Also, the realtor will show them the house, and the realtor is going to be paid from the purchase of the house. And you won't need them the second time because the tenant buyer and you are the buyer and seller. There's no requirement there, but everyone will get something out of the deal, including your power team, your realtor and mortgage broker. The other thing, the advantage that you gain from rent to own is that the properties that you're looking for are, typically in good shape, very good shape. They're retail properties, and because of the structure, and I think we've said this a few times, and it's worth repeating, when we, look for a property, excuse me, when we look for a property, say that's valued at 100K, we really want to get the best possible deal that we can. So let's say, and we say make money in the buy, make money in the buy. Okay, so make money in the buy. We want to get a discount on this property. So the property, say we wanted to, we'd love to get this property at say, 75K. Okay, now here's the thing: if this property's in retail state, you're not going to get it for a 25% decrease. The other thing is, if for us to get it at 75, there would have to be a problem or an issue with the property, and we really don't want that either. These are end users for the property, the tenant buyer. So on these particular properties, these rent-to-own properties, on 100,000K value, even if we got it at, I don't know, 98K, that would be fine. Why would it be okay to get the property at 98K? You can tell me. Why don't we need a big discount on rent-to-owns? Or maybe I ask the question of, why do we need to make money in the buy? Yeah, cash flow is good. So tell me this: why do we need to make money in the buy? What's the purpose behind that? What does making money in the buy help us do? That's right. That's right. It's what Emmanuel's saying. Because we get a 5% on the whole amount compounded yearly, and extending on that, the only reason, so it's better understood when you say, why do we need to get money in the buy? Why is it important for us to get money in the buy? We could use the money for other properties. Sure, you could. But tell me why you need money in the buy. Let's start there. I think that's a better way to understand it. So why is it important for us to make money in the buy? Make money in the buy. Okay? So why do we need to make money in the buy? Yeah, I mean, it is part of your profit. It'll be realized when you sell, though, right? Maybe there won't be any appreciation. Yep, that's true. That's true. For a cushion, if rent-to-own tenants were to leave to regain your money, yeah, you'll gain that benefit. Yeah. The primary reason we want money in the buy is because we recognize the market doesn't do this. It goes like this. And the discount that we receive allows us to absorb any change in the market. So if you buy a property at 100K, again, if you buy so we're here, right? So if you buy a property at 100K, and that's the value, and that's the retail value, if the market goes down, you're in trouble, right? Whereas if we get a discount of, say, even 80,000 or 85,000, say, it can go down basically from here 15%, and we'd be okay. And a 15% drop in a market that's pretty steep. the overall market dropping that is pretty steep. So that gives us a buffer and gives us time, right, to liquidate the property for ourselves if needed without taking a loss. Now, because, and this is the main thing I want you to understand, we can't predict the future, okay? You can't predict the future, so you want this cushion to protect you in case the market changes and you have to liquidate the property because you don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. Maybe you have to liquidate the property. Maybe you need to liquidate the property for another investment opportunity. So if you're buying a property at retail and you got to sell quickly, you become the distressed seller where you're gonna have to discount the property. So we want that discount. We want to make money in the buy because we recognize we can't predict the future. We can't predict the future. Now, obviously, when we make money in the buy, that's going to be better for our cap rate. It's going to be better for our cash flow. All those things are going to be happening for us. The lower the cost, the better everything looks when we run our numbers. But at the end of the day, you only get this discount when we say make money in the buy. You only get this discount when you sell. Now, if you're flipping a property, obviously that's, again, important because that you're going to regain that profit. You're going to regain that profit that you discounted when you flip the property. Regardless, whether you flip it or hold it, the big reason that drop or that discount is needed is because you can't predict the market. That's the big thing. Now, why in the case of rent-to-owns, we're not concerned with the making money in the buy principle? Can anybody tell me now? Why is it not important to us? So we want to make money in the buy because we recognize we can't predict the future, and it's to protect ourselves. The tenant is absorbing risk. Yeah, they are absorbing risk. You're right. Isn't the purchase price already agreed upon? Yes, it is. What do you mean, Kim? As we buy for cash flow, if I understand the question right. We do buy for cash flow. We do buy for cash flow. That's correct. Because of the 3 to 5% down payment. No, but that's important. Those are all right. Everything you're saying is right with the initial agreement. Do you mean, Ken, the agreement between the tenant buyer and yourself when you put a rent-to-own together? Yeah, that's an agreed upon price. But that price is retail. It's retail, right? So here, let me explain. So a non-rent-to-own property, we get it for $100K. That's its value. Okay, its value is $100K. Okay. Now, we don't know what the market's going to do. So it could go up or down, okay? That's a fact. That's the reality, okay? So the value is $100K. We get it for $100K. We don't know what the market's going to do. Whether we hold it, we don't hold it. Obviously, if the property's cash flowing, I'm less concerned with the underlying asset, the house itself and what it's worth. But in the sense of liquidating a property, we want to get the best possible price, not only for profit, because you're only going to realize that profit in the sale. When you're buying a property that cash flows, you're not concerned with the actual value of the property. Who cares? You're going to make cash flow. But if you're looking to hold a property for a short term and flip that property, or you're not sure, you want the option of flipping the property, definitely, if you're not getting cash flow, you have to get a discount. If you're not getting cash flow on a property, you have to get a discount on the purchase price. If the property is cash flowing, so if this property here was cash flowing, we'd be less concerned with did we get a discount? We'd be less concerned. Does everybody understand? So we don't care if the value of this property was 100 and the market went up or down, regardless, we wouldn't care. Why? Because we're not, when we take on this property for cash flow, so it's a cash flow property, the underlying asset doesn't matter to us because regardless of the market going up or down, we're still gonna make cash flow, right? In fact, when the market goes up, right, with our cash flow, it pretty much, it goes up slightly because of inflation, really, more than anything. And the value of the property, when it goes up, the value of the property itself also goes up. So the property goes up. Okay, so the property goes up for us too. When the market goes down, right, we actually also see the cash flow, rents, go up. And the reason they go up when the market is down is because when the market is down, the economy is such that people who were buying houses or could buy houses are no longer buying houses. So they're owners or have the owner mentality, but they're renting. So what happens, this happened in the US after the crash. What happened is there's a bigger pool of people who want to rent, right? Who want to rent, property. So because they want to rent property, we're going to get a slight bump. So higher rents. We're going to get a slight bump in rents, right? Plus, we're going to get a better tenant, right? Better tenants. In a rise, you get the property itself goes up in value. This thing goes up in value, but your tenant quality goes down. And the reason your tenant quality goes down is because people who can buy houses are buying houses now. So you have a less owner mentality in your rental properties. Vacancy rates decrease given the new people now renting instead of purchasing. Exactly. Exactly what's happening here. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go. This is this is the way the market is. I mean, it's when you understand it, because you would think, well, when the market goes down, rents aren't going to go up. But when you realize the impact of the market going down, then you understand why. How are rents going up? The property values are not going up. So, that actually creates when that happens in a market. So when the market does that here, so the market went up and then went down because things aren't good, and the rents start going up. So rents start going up. So it goes up and it's coming down, and the rents go up. And because the rents go up, but property values don't, they stay flat or actually go down. What this scenario creates is high, creates high cash flow. And if it creates high cash flow, it creates high cap rates. And if it has a high cap rate, what happens? What happens when that happens in the market? When properties start to increase their cap rate and increase their cash flow, naturally, what happens is, you're right. So what happens is investors come in. And when the investors come in, what happens to the market? Whoop, comes back up. You see? Yeah, prices increase. Yeah, exactly. So it's really, when you walk through it, it's not that complicated. You can understand why the market moves up and down. And the key thing to remember when we're looking at something like this is to recognize that when you're looking at this grid, this property, and the average cannot exceed, right? Is not going to exceed, or I should say, cannot exceed income increases. So if plus, my apologies, so let's do that again. It's more than just income increases. So cost, so the average equals this. Let me tell you, and you can pretty much calculate this in any country in the world. So if I look at taxes, so this is the price of ownership. Taxes, insurance, maintenance, taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and inflation rate. Inflation rate plus income increase. I'm not doing very well with this picture. Sorry, folks. Let's do this again. Okay. So if we look at taxes plus maintenance plus insurance plus the average income increase. Oh, sorry. Yeah, average income insurance. Let me say, sorry, inflation plus average income increase. What does this equal, folks? Equals, you know what, Tommy? Appreciation. That's what it is. So property appreciation. So the cost of owning a house, appreciation. So yeah, well, I guess you could say appraisal too, right? The cost of ownership plus the increase that people are making in money per year will give you the average appreciation rate. So if people's houses are moving up, you know, the average appreciation in a place is, to give you an example, so if the average appreciation in a area, say, is 10, and everybody's like, wow, the average appreciation for the houses here are 10. And you know, what people don't realize is if the average appreciation is 10, I can tell you that this is no more than, this can't exceed as an average. It won't increase more than taxes. So I would assume maybe the taxes are high in this place. Maybe the you know, maintenance and insurance I'm not too worried about. Inflation, though, I would assume that they have a high inflation rate, and that would be related to their average income increase, right? Average income increase. So when we look at areas, so if you went down to South America, you know, they have their property values, you know, in some of their areas are high, but that's not necessarily, you know, a good thing. It's at the end of the day, you know, if the increase on the property is high, but the inflation is high, that's why it's up. It's not because the properties are actually worth more. So the properties are increasing in value, but it's really the driver is inflation, you know, not increase of income. So when you look at properties, you know, in an area, understand that obviously if there's a huge flow of money in an area, so there's lots of money going into an area, you know, you're going to see property prices go up, but they can't sustain going up beyond how much increased income people make. So in any area, pretty much any area, over time, you're only going to see houses go up, right, equal to cost of ownership plus plus income increase. So really the house is really going up as high as the income's going up. So when you look at Canada, the average increase per year for income is, say, 1%. So, you know, if you look at that, like in any area, if you look at that like any area, what you're going to see is this. If the average, whatever the average is, the real increase of property is going to be equal to the average income increase. Does that make sense? Probably not. Okay. The average almost. What I'm trying to say is people can't spend money they don't have. So when you're looking at average appreciation of an area, right? Yeah, if wages go up, homes won't go up. Well, if wages don't go up, yeah. If wages don't go up, homes won't go up. Unless the only way you can actually make properties go up, but the actual value of that property can't go beyond what people can spend. So Dave, you're right. If we look at it, you know, in a straight line, if wages don't go up, homes can't go up. But they can actually make properties go up even if incomes aren't going up. Influx of work comes in the area, it may go up. Yeah, so if you have, you know, there's two real factors that make property values go up above average, and that's new money. and that's from jobs. So jobs and foreign investment. Foreign investment. And foreign investment simply means anybody that's not in the area. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Dave. So if a bunch of jobs come in, that's all new money. All new money. That's going to make prices go up because it affects the supply and demand relationship, but not only supply and demand, it's supply and demand plus what they can afford. So if I have, person one and person two, and I have two houses, and these two houses are 100K, and they each have 100K, that's the max that they have or can afford, everything's happy, prices will move. But if I add a third person and I give him 110K, he can only buy one of these houses. So he's going to get one of these houses, but the other house is still going to play out 100K. It can't go above what people can afford. So even though you have a greater demand to the supply that's in the market, if they can't afford it, it doesn't matter. The prices are not going to go up beyond what people can afford. It's when you go to a place like Fort Mac or Fort McMurray, and all of a sudden you get these three people all have $300,000 because they're making so much money, right? Because of this new jobs. Now each one of these has $300,000. Well, of course, these prices are going to go up to $300,000. They're going to go up because they have, they have greater means, and they're competing over the same goods and services. So areas where if you go to one side of the country to the other, you go to New Brunswick, you might see houses averaging close to 200. You go to Vancouver, and the average is $800,000, seven and change. So 700, just over 700,000. Why would that happen? Well, they are different places, but I'll tell you right now, I've been on coast to coast, and both those places are beautiful, beautiful places to live. They're beautiful. So what's the big difference? Well, there's a higher influx of money in Vancouver than there is in New Brunswick. But income-wise, actual income-wise, no, there isn't a huge difference between them. And the houses themselves are exactly the same in the way of how they're built, what they're built with. And I don't want to remove the idea that environment doesn't change the way you build a house. But, the same house in Vancouver moved to New Brunswick is going to have a different value. And that's because there's much more money competing for those properties, in Vancouver than they are in New Brunswick, right? There's a larger population, and they're competing for that. So that foreign money, and I don't mean foreign from another country. It doesn't have to be from another country. It could be from Canada. Just not, they don't live there. They don't live there, which was another force that created a high push in Fort Mac and Fort McMurray, because a lot of the people didn't live there. They lived somewhere else. They bought a house there, but they didn't really live there. And a lot of the money that was created in Alberta was taken out of the province. Now, a lot of it stayed too, right? But it was a lot of it stayed because prices just went up. So you can live in Vancouver, and the inflation rate in Vancouver is going to be higher than in New Brunswick. What do I mean by that? Well, if you have a store in, this is a mall, say a mall, on a piece of land. If the land costs more, what's going to happen to the prices? They're going to go up. So that same piece of land, right, because everything's going to be pushed up by real estate costs. So if real estate costs go up, a donut here is going to cost you more than the donut in the mall in New Brunswick. This is Vancouver. This is New Brunswick. And the reason is not because it costs you more, the donut costs more. It's the property costs more, which makes everything go up. Everything go up. Does that make sense to everybody? New Brunswick's overhead. Overhead. Yeah, exactly. Management cost. Everything goes up. There was a time I was in Calgary. There was a time in Calgary. It happens actually often, or it has happened often. In Calgary, it heats up so much in Alberta, parts of Alberta. So Calgary is an example. that they start increasing wages to keep employees. So because if they don't, they'll just leave. The employees will leave. So if the wages go up and the cost of property and rents go up, the cost of of creating and finishing a product and selling it to the consumer is going to go up. So all these things are going to be affected by this influx of cash. What's the actual real value of these properties? You cannot, and I know, we've talked about this. The property values, you're not going to make any money. In Canada, you're going to make 1%. It's actually less than that right now. 1% is what you're going to make. And the reason you're going to make 1% net on property is because incomes are going up 1% on average. That's all. The reason this is a 6, or it's 5.1 now, or 5.1, I believe. The reason it's 6 is because it's income increase plus the cost of ownership. It's the cost of ownership that's making it go. It's the cost of ownership. It's not, and I think I've shared this with some of you. It's not possible in things in our world, in our life, to be able to trap wealth. So houses can't trap wealth. Stocks can't trap wealth. Gold can't even trap wealth. You can't trap wealth. Wealth is something that is fluid, and it grows or it recedes. You can't just put money somewhere and expect it to sustain its value. And obviously we all know about inflation, and 3% is the average inflation for Canada. And what's important to understand about inflation is that the government wants inflation. So the government wants inflation. They would love a 2% to 3% range inflation, because inflation actually shows that your economy is expanding, it's growing. A zero inflation would be horrible. That would cause deflation, which is really bad. That's when people stop spending money. But you don't want to see 15% inflation rate either. That's horrible. That's hyperinflation. So you need expansion, and this fact of expansion is going to make everything go up. Everything is going to go up, not because its value is going up. It's because your buying power, or your ability to buy, goes down. So your buying power in Vancouver is less than your buying power in New Brunswick. That's just a fact, right? That's just a fact. $1 in New Brunswick will buy you more than $1 in Vancouver. Same thing in Toronto, right? $1 in Vancouver, Toronto, doesn't buy you what it buys you in, even Montreal, like even Quebec. That's the reality. What you can buy in Winnipeg is more than you can buy in, even now in a Calgary. Although Calgary and Edmonton are under some serious pressure now, in the marketplace. So the overall market in Canada is down over 4% year over year. It's nothing to get panicked about. It's actually, you should get excited, because as the market goes down, it creates new opportunities. What we don't want to see ever is, we're glad the market doesn't do this. This would be horrible. This would be horrible if it was a straight line. The movement in the economy is what creates opportunity. That's what creates the opportunity. So we want to see movement in the market. So if you're in a market that's going down, don't fret, don't be worried or concerned. Apply the right strategies to those opportunities and make money. If the market's going up, same thing applies. So don't remember how we make money. We make money by solving problems. So, when the market changes like this, up, down, that's because there's a problem in the marketplace, a different problem in the marketplace. Economy's too hot, economy's, going down. This continuous cycle of up and down. It's exactly what we look at as traders. Traders want to see movement. The volatility in the market right now is awesome. I love it. It's great. It's very profitable. That volatility is not good for someone who has money in their RSPs. They don't want to see that. They don't want to see their account go up, 3%, down 4%, up 7%, down 4%. That kind of movement the advisors typically say, don't look at it because, you know, it's a long-term investment. The problem is you're not going to make any real money in the market if you just let it sit there, any real money. So, you know, you want the movement to take advantage of those changes in the marketplace. Same thing goes for real estate. So, you know, when you look at real estate, when you look at the opportunities of real estate and understanding it, the house itself, I've said this a few times, and I'm sure you've heard me say this. And I know I repeat myself, but these things are important. The house itself, this is worth nothing to us, really. The house itself, the structure itself, all of this makes us money because of creative financing. Because through creative financing, I can increase and decrease the value of this property, just like the bank does, just like the government does. It's not that hard to inflate or increase the value of a property or decrease the value of a property based on that premise, based on that idea. To give you an example, if this property produced $1,000 per year in cash flow, net operating income, this value would be $100K for us, the investor. If I can increase the cash flow through creative financing to $15,000, the property now is worth $150K. Does everybody see that? Everybody understand that? So I haven't really done anything to the house. I haven't done anything to the house at all. Zero to the house. But because I increase the cash flow, I can increase its value in the marketplace. I can actually increase the value without touching the property. This idea or the approach to this is the exact same way the government, influences, the values of property in the marketplace. It's exactly the same thing. It's the same concept or same approach, because what the government can do is simply, the big things that the government can do to increase the value of that property, the marketplace, is to do what? Well, we can drop interest rates. That's one way, right? We drop interest rates, you can buy more house. We can extend amortization, okay? Say from 25 years to 40 years. That's going to increase the value of property. Does everybody see that? What else will increase the value of property? Does everybody understand where I'm coming from? So if they drop interest rates, you're going to buy more house. If they extend the mortgages, you're going to be able to buy more house, right? The house hasn't changed. The house hasn't changed. But the house price or value, the market value, has gone up or down based on them moving this stuff around. There's another way that they can do that. Anybody have any other? How can they increase the cost of building? Yep, they can do that through the cost of building. Typically, the cost of building is driven by, it's true, but the influence that the government or the banks have on the cost of building is a little bit different. It's more macro in the sense of inflation, maybe, Dave. But the cost of building itself, tax incentives for the buyer, yeah, that can help. Tax incentives can help. Maybe I can, reduce tax on property or keep it low, not move it up. That can create it, right? Also, believe it or not, insurance, the cost of insuring a property up and down can create that, can create a price difference. Also, how much money I need for a down payment can also, if the down payment is 5% or the down payment is 20%, that can increase and decrease the value of a property. Now, why is this all true? How is this? I think conceptually we understand. Obviously, we know these things have an effect, but it's much simpler than it looks. That might look complicated. It's really simple. This is what it comes down to. If you can afford $500 a month for purchasing a house, whatever eats up this, that's how much house you can buy. Does that make sense to everybody? So if I have a mortgage that's 10 years versus 30 years, obviously, because the payments are higher on a 10-year versus a 30-year, I'll have less house here than here. But it's the same house. It's the exact same house. But I can't buy, because I'm doing a 10-year mortgage, I'm paying this payment over 10 years. I can't afford to pay more than $500 a month. So whatever the $500 is, that's what it is. I can't change what I need, how much money I have. I can't change that. But can they change, the amortization to allow me to buy more house? Yeah, sure they can. Then I can buy more houses for 30 years. Yes, more house for 30 years. Yeah, does everybody understand that? So to give you an example, why don't we do this? Hold on. To give you an example that you can better understand it, let's pull up our sheet. Okay, so when we look at, one second, to show you what I mean, it's easier to see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, so let's look at, okay, so if we look at, there you go. Can everybody see that okay? Okay. So, just curious. No. Yeah, I mean, for those of you who came in late, I said at the beginning that our accountant, or not our accountant, mortgage broker couldn't be with us this week. Something came up and he couldn't be with us, and hopefully he's going to be with us next week. So if he came late, I shared that with everybody at the beginning of the call. Hopefully we'll be able to see him next week, and that's why I was going on the vein of creative financing or financing. No, that's okay. That's okay. No worries. Okay, everybody sees this, yes? Okay, so let's do this. Let's say a property is 100 grand, okay? Oops. Okay, that was to take that away. So let's zero. Okay, so it's 100 grand. Let's don't worry about the rent. So let's say that the rent, let's leave the rent out of it. Just 100K. Come over here. The bank is asking you to put 95, and you put 5% down. Okay, so that's a regular setup mortgage. Okay, so currently, everybody see that? Currently, this $100,000 property. Forget about everything else right now. We're just looking at mortgages. Okay, mortgages. So $100,000 property. Okay, and just to make this simpler, I'm going to put that as a zero. Okay, so $100,000 property, right, is going to cost you, if you come down to the cost of financing right here, it's going to cost you $488. Everybody see that? So if you finance it at 3.77 at 25K, you put 5% down, it's going to cost you $488 a month in mortgages, $5,855 a year. Does everybody see that? Can someone say okay? The reason is this 488, call it 500 bucks. Call it 500 bucks is the thing I want you to focus on. So to give you an example, let's just color that. Okay, so this 48. Let's pretend, so we remember, we'll put it here. Let's pretend all I can afford is $500 a month. This is why the importance of understanding, and why I wanted my team member, my friend, to join us today was because he talks about how banks figure out what you can afford. And hopefully you'll be able to join us next week and how much the banks can afford. So if the bank says to you, you can afford $500 a month, when they run their numbers on a mortgage, they say, okay, you're pre-qualified for a $100,000 property. Everybody see that? That's the whole point. So your affordability, I'm sure that's not how it's done, but anyways, you can afford $500 a month. Okay, so how can we increase or decrease the property? the value of the property? Well, if you only make $500 a month that you can use for a house, the only way I can create an increase in the market is to do a couple different things. Let's start with a simple one. Most people get this one, interest rate. Now, if the interest rates drop to 2, this same $500 can buy more than a $100,000 property, right? So what can it buy? 1 second. It can buy, so I can see it. Okay, let's try 110. It can buy more than 110, 120. Well, look at this. Now you can buy a $120,000 house. That same person can now afford a $120,000 house that only could afford a $100,000 house when this was 3.77. So they can bump up the market by dropping out interest rates of how much house you can afford. Well, if you can afford more house, you're going to buy more house. So when they drop interest rates, this same person is not going to look for a $100,000 house. They're going to look for a $120,000 house. So when your realtor says, "Have you been pre-approved?" Then for $150,000, then they say, "Great, let's go look at houses that are worth $150,000." So you're always, as an end user, typically going to spend what you can afford because the bank told you can afford it. You are breaking up, and we can't see the whole page of the Excel sheet. You can't see the whole page? Oh, you mean this end over here? Is that what you mean? This part doesn't matter. This part doesn't matter. We're just focusing on this area. Is that okay? You don't need to see this area. This area is interest only. We're not looking at that. So why don't we do this? Does that make sense? Can you see the whole page now? Good? Okay, good. All right. Okay. So did everybody see when I changed the interest rate, property values went up? The property didn't change, just property values went up. Why? Because the same person that can afford, a $100,000 house with their $500 income can now afford a $120,000 house. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's one way that the interest rates can impact the value. Amortization long, yeah, exactly. So if I take the amortization from 25 to 35 years, so the interest rate's exactly the same. Again, without changing the interest rate, I've changed the amortization period. I can still afford the $120,000 house. Does everybody see that? So that same person that can only afford a $100,000 house, if I change this to 25 years, they can't afford to buy this house, right? Because their income only allows them to afford $500,000. The mortgage is $586,000. So they'll say, you can't afford a $120,000 house. You can only afford a $100,000 house. Does everybody see what's happening? Everybody understand this? Any questions? But if for us, that would be to buy 2 houses at 80 and then sell one. No? I'm not sure I understand. But for us, that would be to buy 2 houses at 80K and then sell one. No. I'm not sure I understand that, Miriam. I'm sorry. What I'm showing you right now, Miriam, is how prices go up and down to houses that nothing's changed on the house. The values are going up and down, but they're not really worth more. It's just that you can pay more, and if you can pay more, prices will go up. So this is all to do with how much can your money buy. So a $500, $500. Okay, no worries. So if your income will only allow you to afford $500, that's the max that this number can be per month, regardless of the value of the house. So let's look at, if right now this person can afford a $100,000 house with the mortgage rate of 3.99, 25% amortization period, and the out-of-pocket is 5%. So they can afford, this is what they can afford. The only way that this price, or my apologies, one of the way this price is going to go up is what? Well, if I drop interest rates, that's one way. Now all of a sudden, the payment's only 402, therefore I can buy now $120,000 house. But understand something, 1.2. Understand something. The house, you're not buying more house. You're not really buying more house. All prices go up. So that same $100,000 house is now worth 120. Not because you've done anything to the house, not because the house is worth more, but because people can pay more, prices go up. Does everybody understand that? So prices go up based on what people can afford. The house itself hasn't changed. It's simply, literally, that there's just more money in the system, more money, that goes further. The other way that can make that impact, in your income, my apologies, in your, what you can afford is the amortization. So right now, that $500 at 2% can buy us a house at 120. Well, what if we did the amortization to 35 years? Well, look at that. Now the payment's only $377. So what happens is the bank says, oh, you can qualify for 140, even higher. You can qualify for 150,000. Now all of a sudden your income, even higher even, your income can afford a $150,000 house. So what happens in the marketplace, because everyone's being affected by this, all prices go up. All the prices go up. So it's not really that the values of these properties, the real value, their intrinsic value has gone up. It's simply that people can afford more. If people can afford more, they'll pay more. That's all it is. So we have amortization period. We have interest rates that can affect that. And the other thing that we can see that can affect that is over here, expenses for ownership. So insurance and taxes on a house. And the reason this is going to have an effect on how much you can afford is because you can afford $500. Let's say you can afford $500 per month based on what the bank says you can afford. Well, because of your income and all these metrics are actually after the fact. We're talking about your debt service ratio, how much do you spend a month based on your income. Let's say that you can afford $500. Now, this will affect this. So if this number, so let's say that you make, would be $5,300 a month. You make $5,300 a month, okay? So you make $5,300 a month, and let me just do one thing for us, please, just to bring this down. Is that too small, folks? Is that okay? Is that okay? The size? Okay. So let's say you make $5,300 a month. Let's pretend. Don't worry about the amount. It's not important. So what the bank does, the bank takes away all your expenses and says, what's left over is $500. This is what you can afford to buy for a house. Now let's pretend, in this case, it was the expensive insurance and taxes. Okay, so what they would do is they'd go, okay, let's call this minus, let's go 5,300. So let me just leave that there. Okay, so what they did is they go this is your income, okay? And let's say the cost of the property, taxes, insurance stuff is $4,800. So what they say is, okay, let's take this cost, my apologies, this minus this cost, and that gives us the $500. Everybody see that? That makes sense? Okay, this is a crude way of doing it, but it'll give you the example. Let's pretend that insurance and taxes go up to 25% of the value. Look what happened. Can you buy a house? Can you buy a house? You're actually making, can't even buy anything really, because you're making less than, so that's too high. Let's say it's, no, we don't want, what should it be able to vote? Okay, so let's say that taxes go up a little bit. It was 20, now it's 21. So it was 20, you're 500. Let's say it goes up to 20.5. Those costs go up 20.5. So now, where you could afford that $150,000 house. You can't. Why? Because your expenses of ownership have gone up. So now you can only afford a $130,000 house. Does everybody see that? Actually less. $120,000 house. There you go. So now that same person, because the expense of ownership, taxes have gone up, the cost of ownership's gone up, all of a sudden you can't afford that same house, prices go down. So you see how the house itself hasn't changed. It's they can manipulate or motivate or deflate prices in the marketplace by making these changes that have absolutely nothing to do with you and no control over you. Income's income. You can't change that. So whatever money you're making, they can affect or do affect what you can actually afford in the way of a house. What you can afford in the way of a house. So that's how the marketplace goes up and down. It's based on the factors, real factors. Up, value, what the value is based on your interest rate, your amortization period, all those things take into account. So to give you an example, in Japan, we have 99-year, leases, mortgages. Okay, so look, if a property's 99, if it's got a 99-year mortgage, right? Look what happens. That $380 per month now can afford you 100 more. What am I talking about? Let's go 180 more. Look at this. Let's write 200. Yeah, to over $200,000 house now. Everybody see that? All of a sudden, the marketplace can afford, that same person can afford a $200,000 house. The house itself hasn't gone up. The house itself hasn't gone up in real value. The ability for people to pay and what they can pay has gone up. And that's because they're asking you to pay less per month by stretching out the amortization. And in Canada, or any country really, if they want prices to go down, it's really easy, right? There's a lot of things they can do. They can bring this down, right? The 20-year amortization period they can bring that down. If the amortization period comes down, what happens? All of a sudden your mortgage payment is $960. You can't buy this house. You can't buy a $200,000 house. You can only buy, but you can't buy any of these houses because you don't make enough money. And if you can't have enough money to make the purchase, the prices are going to go down. Are you putting up this video? YouTube say we were having some internet issues and have lost audio for the last 15 minutes. Really? It sucks. Yes, I will. Last week's video will be up. Should be up tonight. You should get a posting tomorrow that you got it. All right. So we've run out of time. I know. I feel like I've confused some of you, but I promise that with Tark next week, when he talks about what you can afford, we'll go through this exercise again. Then the following week, what I'll do, you see no videos. Our videos are on the link. I did not see any of our videos. Do you mean the Edmonton pre-videos? Is that what you mean? The Edmonton group videos? Yeah, I didn't put them up. I was just putting up the weeklies. If you want, I can put them up. It's no big deal. The first 2 weeks is just us. I record them just for record. We can put them up too. I'll just put Edmonton. Just look for Edmonton because we have those 2 weeks for everybody that comes on board. So it ends up being several groups with the same name. Can you type it in? Type in Edmonton. Is that what you mean? Oh, I think she means talk. Okay. Yes. Can you hear? Okay, so folks, we're going to wrap up. So this is what we're going to do. Next week when Tarek joins us and he tells us how they qualify for a property, we'll take an example of how they calculate that based on income. And we'll walk through this example again, explaining how, the actual way the banks qualify you, what that looks like in the way of income and how that is affected by interest rates and amortization. Then what I'm going to do the following week is I'll explain how we can increase the value of a house the same way they do by working on creative financing, this area here. By changing this, folks, we can actually change the value of the house. We can change the value of the house. Does that sound good? Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Even though you don't understand how to do it. Do you see what I'm saying? So if we can change the income of the house, then we can change the value of the house. This is what I'm saying. Okay? And we'll do that after, not this week coming up. We'll go through with Tarek. The following week we'll do that. Okay, so let me say we're done for the night. Let me just say this recording will be up for your review. Be up for your review. There you go. Okay. Okay, so if everybody's good, can everybody say yes or why? I hope tonight I didn't complicate things. I know we can go through this again and again. Yep, sure. Kevin, yep. We'll go through this again and again. I want you to understand this so you understand what you're pursuing and how you can resemble how the bank and the government change prices and property. We can do that too. We can actually do that too through creative financing. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, folks, have a great night. I will see you all next Tuesday. We'll be adding a new group from Toronto. They'll be joining us not next week, but the week after. And we'll also be joining a new group from Ottawa, Vancouver, and Kitchener, London area in the coming weeks. So our group's going to get bigger and bigger. All right. Okay, everybody, have a great night and keep hunting. You need